Selectman Pierce. They're going to come down and they're going to discuss the Department of Public Works budget. And I'll describe it. You just tell me when you want me to take a slide. Quick overview of major lines within the Public Works budget. They perform 3 functions: cemetery operations. The other minor one is all the solid waste activities, and if it's not in one of those 2, it's just Public Works operations. The bottom line for that, all of those operations, is essentially a very flat budget, going from a little bit over $5 million to a little bit over $5 million. All of the operational part of running the Public Works department. And the following slides will explain more detail on those 3 functions of the Public Works. As Selectman Gross explained in the introductory to this presentation today, the factors that are going to be most discussed going into the budget deliberations are the CIP projects, basically $1.5 million were in the 2011 budget. Various projects within proposed can't be carried out in 2012 adds up to 2.9. So it's essentially double. And some of these are new, and some of them have been carried over for several years, and they're beginning to become serious that they have to be dealt with. Let's see. We don't discuss CIP anywhere on the first slide. Right. So this is our opportunity to get questions dealing with the CIP before I go on to my other slides to deal with the details of the operational activities of the department. 6-wheel dump truck will be intended to be purchased. The other vehicle is a solid waste trash pickup capture truck. One of the 2 trucks circulate through the town every Tuesday through Friday. We essentially have a fleet of 3 trucks. 2 of them are always on the road during those 4 days. The 3rd truck is the oldest of the fleet and is kept in reserve. It's pulled out and put in service when one of the 2 primary trucks are in for maintenance. So essentially we'll be replacing the oldest of the fleet of trucks, and then the new truck will be put online as a primary truck. Of the remaining 2 trucks, if the oldest then reverts back to a standby status. That is I have seen what we regard as the primary trucks. I've seen them, I think, twice this year being pulled back into Public Works with a wrecker. They are, at least one of them is getting on the edge of a serious maintenance problem. That's why we do need one to be replaced. Cemetery expansion, that's West Lawn in the Village District. There's very few cemetery plots that are open to be purchased in that field. So the intent there is to develop a cemetery across the street. The town already owns all that land. For the recent number of years, it's been an athletic field for the Parks Department. And we're starting this year to do some basic landscaping. later this fall, some more landscaping to get it ready. And next year, there'll be, I believe, a contract to properly lay it out as a cemetery field. Yes, sir.
Dave, could you or Carl just talk about the one thing that's not on there for vehicles, and that was the back-on truck?
Yes.
Because I think that's important. That was on there, and I think it's...
Going up till perhaps 2 weeks ago, this line would have been $250,000 higher because we needed to purchase the truck.
390.
390 higher. To purchase a replacement truck that vacuums the grit out of the storm drain basins, as well as vacuum out sewer lines. And to that's why, to the extent of the sewer commission picks up 25% of the cost of that vehicle. This was a vehicle that was on the warrant to be purchased last March. The voters said no at that time. It has since failed, and or very close to failure. The Selectmen decided a few weeks back to do a major overhaul of the existing truck. The basic truck, the frame, and the powertrain is relatively good. But everything on that truck that deals with the vacuum component and the booms and the pipes and the pumps are all going to be now replaced. The cost of that is coming in at about $125,000, and it'll be paid for out of this year's funds. And so that is a substantial decrease in what we would have had for a vehicle line in the CIP.
So one thing I just want to highlight here is that last year, with working with the budget committee, we had a dump truck that we rehabbed. We put another body on the dump truck. Everyone will remember that, and it saves some money. Kind of using the same theory on this back-on truck, where the chassis is good, so we're going to go and do a complete rehab. The problem is that this back-on truck is a workhorse in our DPW for about 8 to 9 months out of the year, where it's cleaning up culverts and storm catch basins, and it's a critical piece of equipment. It needs to immediately go down to Florida. And,
the blessing in disguise here, if we wanted to have purchased a brand new truck in this line, the money, if the voters said yes next March, we would then have purchased the truck soon after March. It would not have been delivered until late fall.
we could have done that.
And vacuum truck, its primary season is the summer. In the winter, we can't operate it because the water in the truck would freeze. So it's put back into the garage. So we would be a risk of operating that old truck during all next summer, especially if it's quite near failure now. So the blessing in disguise is we're able to get the current truck completely overhauled in the winter months by the manufacturer of the vacuum truck, and then have it back on the road in the spring.
David, if I can, I'm just trying to facilitate some things. With regard to the garbage truck, the packer, are there any questions from the budget committee with respect to the need for the packer or the urgency of that? I can speak on behalf of the Board of Selectmen that this is probably one of the one or two most important things that has to get done this year. Our garbage, the garbage and recycling trucks are constantly getting, they're constantly breaking down. This is a huge priority for us. With respect to the six-wheel dump truck, I just want to, I'll get this out there. Carl, is there, last year we replaced, we asked this question to the Board of Selectmen, is there a possibility of doing the same thing with this truck as we did last year in terms of just replacing the body?
You know, the answer is no. The problem with dump trucks, where they're different from the back on, the dump trucks have the salt and the sand. I mean, that's what they're doing, they're spreading the salt. The undersides are completely corroded. We did it last year with the 10-wheeler. 10-wheeler is a little more heavy-duty frame than a 6-wheeler. The jury's still up how long we're gonna get out of that 10-wheeler. Now, the good news is the body that we purchased, $42,000 body, can be transferred to a new cab and chassis. So if we find 2, 3, 4 years down the road that, geez, we just can't run this truck anymore, we haven't wasted the $42,000. We can transfer that stainless steel body on a new chassis and frame. However, to do that, the 6-wheelers, the frames are a lot lighter. We just don't recommend doing that on a 6-wheeler. So that's where we stand.
Okay, so are there any questions with regard to the 6-wheel dump truck? And I say that if you do have a question and we can't answer it immediately, this gives us the extra 3 or 4 or 5 days or a week until our next meeting where we can get you that answer, and it speeds up the process for all of us. John?
Why can't these items be put on a special article for the voters like last year to vote yes or no?
You want me to answer that? The Board of Selectmen believes that these are too critical to put out there as a special article. We put them out as a special article for the last 2 years, and historically they've been put in terms of our CIP program, which is, unlike towns like Ware, who put out like 60 special articles, Goffstown has employed a CIP program which tries to use that process, which Ivan was a part of, to try to balance out your capital expenditures within the budget. You know, quite honestly, John, some of these items may not appear to be, you know, maybe they don't appear to be as important, you know, to the voters. I think it's incumbent upon the Board of Selectmen to make recommendation, put things in the budget. We could technically put everything out as special articles, but that's why you have a budget. This is a piece of equipment or pieces of equipment that are critical. And I'm sure if you want to talk about that at the Budget Committee level, that's certainly appropriate, but the Board of Selectmen feels very important that these items stay in. Elizabeth?
So how big is our fleet of dump trucks? How many dump trucks are in that fleet?
We have 8 6-wheel, big 6-wheel dumps and 2 10-wheel dumps.
And how much, what percentage do you think each of those is used? Like in use, on any given day, or any given week?
They're almost all used every day, summer and winter, we're out. Unless it's a driver's on vacation, the truck leaves the yard.
So but they're out all day, or they're out? Okay. So all the vehicles are used pretty much all the time?
Yeah, I mean, if we're doing, like in the wintertime, a lot of times we'll be doing brush. So the guys won't take every dump truck out on brush crew, so they might have a park, but, during the construction season. Yeah, in the wintertime, obviously, if it's snowing, they're all out. But in between snowstorms, if we're not doing snow removal, you might find a few parked out back in the brush. But other than that, they're out on the road every day.
And how many years can you typically get out of each one?
Well,
If you bought it new, how long would you expect to run?
we used to plan a 10-year replacement schedule. Because of the budget constraints over the last few years, we've gone out to 12 years. And I don't know, if those of you that have been in town for a long time may remember in 1992, we had let the fleet get so bad that we had to go out and bond. I think we bought 6 trucks all in 1 year. It was a bond article, over $1 million. We've tried hard to rotate so that we don't get ourselves into that again. So, we have 10 dump trucks in the fleet. We're trying to kind of replace one every year to just keep them from backing up again. We worked hard over the years to spread them out so that we could kind of replace one a year and keep up with them.
So last year,
Okay.
last year, we refurbished one of them. This year, you're looking to replace one of them. Before that, when have you replaced one the year before that? So we have pretty much been on that cycle.
Oh, actually, I take that back. The year before, we had tried to replace that 10-wheeler, and it failed.
So
we
nothing
didn't
got
replace
replaced
it.
that year.
Then we refurbished the 10-wheeler last year.
Okay. Okay.
And Elizabeth, as we get into the next line with road program, that's where those trucks are used too.
Okay.
Road program. And some of our road program is through contract. But then again, there are several projects every year that we do with our own capacity of equipment. That's where the trucks come in.
Dan has a question.
So, in continue with the same line of thought, we have 10 dump trucks that each have a pile on front of them. What would happen if you lost one of the dump trucks and you only had 9 available? How do you get the roads clear?
Well, we have to deal with that when there's a breakdown. And, you know, what happens, every truck, and there's other trucks too, there's the smaller F-550s that also have plow roots, I think 4 of them. When one, say, goes down because of a breakdown, everybody else has to juggle their routes. Our plow routes right now, the average plow route's about 3.5 hours long to do the whole thing. So if you think about the average typical storm, we're getting about an inch and a half an hour is the typical snowfall rate around here. So if everything's going perfectly, there's 3 or 4 inches of snow on the road before that dump truck's making his other pass. If you take a truck out of service, you extend all those plow routes to 4.5 hours, it's 4.5, 5 inches of snow before that plow is making its rounds again. So it's something, we're already, I think, in my opinion, stretched too far. I used to advocate to add a truck, so we have 11 trucks. That kind of fell on deaf ears, so after 4 or 5 years, I said, okay, we'll wait until it's critical mass. But that's where that.
Bill, you have a question or a comment? And I'll get to you.
Yeah, just want to make a comment regarding the plow routes, just so everybody's aware. Plow routes increase as new developments are approved through the planning board. So every time you get a new project, a new development, that adds so many, mileage to the plow routes. Over the last couple of years, there have been several projects that have been approved, but they haven't gone forward. We've had many requests for extensions at the planning board. They generally get a 1 year. They come back in for another 1 year extension. So we've had several of those. And typically in the springtime is when you have your as we discussed with the Mass Road Sewer project, that's when the construction season is. So we do have the possibility that this spring that we may get several of these projects coming forward, depending also on how the economy is. But at some point, those projects, and my point being is we haven't had that much construction due to the economy for the last few years. But these projects that have been approved have been delayed. And we're going to come to a point, as Tim Redmond, who's the chairman of CIP, brought up when he came to the Selectmen for the presentation, also at the planning board, that if we get inundated with the projects all at once, suddenly we're going to have several more miles. And that's what extends the plow routes. As these projects get approved, they get built, the town accepts those roads, those keep extending the plow routes. And we're just at the point right now where the rubber band is very, very well stretched out on.
Thank you. Just follow up, just one comment. That other handout that we gave you, we're not going to cover that, but in that packet, I gave you a snapshot of like 3 different years, and that's from our pavement management inventory. So you can see, even though we haven't had a lot of new roads coming in, we have expanded the amount of pavement that we're responsible for.
Right, Brian, you had a question?
Yeah, would it be possible to do research on possibly more of the used equipment, like with all the way the economy is, companies going out of business? I think there might be some stuff on the market that might be feasible to pick up versus going brand new.
We always kind of look at that. Of course, the problem we have is a lot of times if somebody's selling a piece of used equipment, they got it on the market, the first person that walks in with a check's walking away with the truck.
Yeah.
That's very difficult for a municipality to deal with because we have to go through this whole appropriation process. At one time, we actually had a pot of money in the budget just in case something like that came up. An even better opportunity for us is up in Concord, they have surplus. So the military and the state, when they get done with equipment, we found pieces of equipment up there. I remember one year there was a road grader we could have got for like $15,000. That's out in our CIP for $240,000. They had like 400 hours on it. I didn't have 15 grand in the budget to go up there and get it. And that is an issue. Back when that was there, at one point in time, this body, not you folks in particular, but this body said, oh, contingency in the budget, we can't have that. So they eliminated that line in the budget. So it kind of tied our hands. So unless we had money to work with, we
Yeah, I think the short answer is that yes, we can. I think we still have the budget for a new, and then as we go through that process, we can certainly see what's available, in that type of market. But it's very difficult for a municipality to do that simply because of the whole requisition process, bid process. It's a little bit more challenging, but it's not impossible. Bill, you.
Yeah, my question, I mean, this is a tough management thing, because you got a fleet of trucks, and you're trying to manage routes, and as Phil said, new things are coming online, costs are piling up, and vehicles are getting depreciated. So my question is, not that I would ever expect that this would be done in its entirety, but why aren't we considering the use of outside contractors to at least supplement or augment the plow schedule? Now, I know the subcontractors would probably have lighter duty equipment. They could do feeder roads. They probably couldn't do the main roads. There's probably insurance reasons why you wouldn't want them to do the main roads. But the point is, there's no less than 3 contractors in the town alone that have equipment and would have an interest in having a plow contract, and if you put it out for bid, you would be able to supplement what you have internally and manage, as Phil said, manage the fact that we have new roads that we're obligated to.
And we do look at that. Matter of fact, I just saw a study that was done by DOT on that. And that is an option. The town of Goffstown used to do that. We used to have a lot of private contractors, and it became an issue where you'd get some critical storms and the contractors could make money somewhere else that didn't show up in Goffstown. And at one point, one of our old selectmen used to talk about how he and one of the other selectmen had to actually go in and drive trucks because there was not enough people to respond. But the fact of the matter is that if you can utilize the people year-round, it's been proven it's not cost-effective to bring private people. If it's just to supplement a snowplow route, it's probably a viable option.
That's what I mean. It would only be supplement. I know cities as big as the city of Boston and many suburbs around Chicago and other areas, towns our size or larger are doing it.
A lot of towns around us are.
Not in whole, but just to supplement, it takes some pressure off when you have a down, so you have some flexibility built in.
All right, that's a great point. Any other questions? And then you guys can, okay, sorry, Dave.
The next line item in CIP, and it's the tall pole and the tent, is the road reclamation line. Department head proposed $2.5 million when he made a budget coming forward to the selectmen. That is being faithful to a road plan established 2001, 10 years ago, which said if you want to do, if you want to keep the roads in fairly good condition, year in and year out, as you go forward in the future, that road plan indicated an expenditure of about $3 million a year. I believe Scott will be bringing a display towards that line into the budget committee, where in previous years we attempted to do that. It has gone down from the $3 million. He proposed to be somewhat faithful towards that amount at 2.5. At the selectmen, we have reduced that by $1 million. And the reason there is all the other lines that we have to contend with in this budget. So,
Any questions?
I'm open for questions on where that line is going.
Any questions there? Elizabeth?
It's kind of a vague question, but I mean, I know the road plan's 10 years old now. It hasn't been fully funded for several years. There've been a lot of changes to it, things that we've done, things that weren't originally intended. Where does the road plan stand at this point?
Again, that other handout, that supplemental handout, there's a page in there specifically speaking to what Elizabeth just brought up. I went back and did a historical comparison when the voters all approved the road plan in 2001. This is what we envisioned. And as Elizabeth said, over the years, we've put projects like the Wallace Road roundabout that was never contemplated in that road plan. It ended up being funded there. We bought equipment out of there, we had budget cuts from there. There's been a lot of things that have changed to the tune of about $5.5 million over the course of the road plan. So where are we today? $5.5 million less than we would be. So that's five, 4 or 5 good-sized roads like a Locust Hill or East Dunbarton Road or some of those collector roads that are out there that should have been done years ago. Now they're still ahead of us. We've tried to do in-house work to make up ground because we can use our own equipment and manpower to, if we're only buying materials, but we can't do it all, so it's.
If I could, this is also, it's a great question, but I also think it warrants a little bit of praise, because we have used road program monies to try to keep the budgets and to try to keep the tax rate affordable. And we've asked Carl to be creative, and I want to compliment DPW, and I also want to compliment Nick back there when he talked about, hey, we got to try this some hybrid approach. We can't reclaim some of these roads, and so a few years ago we started to do more of a hybrid where we reclaimed portions of the road. The best example of this would probably be Tibbetts Hill, where we reclaimed a portion of the road and then we did an overlay on the balance of it. And that's not, that was a creative solution, and it's gonna get us by, and it's working. Addison Road, another example where in order to do that road, it was probably to the tune of $1.3 million for the entire road. Our DPW did about half of it this year at a fraction of that cost. So we're trying to do what we can with the resources that we have, recognizing that our road quality is not where it should be, but it's not horrible either. I mean, I think we're trying to keep up on it, but we can't keep rating the road program to keep the tax rate down. We have to recognize that these costs are going up. The asphalt part of that's petroleum-based product, so when oil prices go up, so does the asphalt prices, so you get less every year. So just recognize that. We're trying to be as creative as possible. It should have been funded at 2.5. We funded it at 1.5. We have put that out as special articles in the past. Again, that's all up for discussion again, John. I mean, we can certainly entertain that, but folks have got, I can't speak for the other selectmen, but the most complaints that I get about from being a selectman are roads. People call you up, pothole here. I mean, it's probably the most thing that people care the most about, and we've got to kind of stay true to it to a certain degree. And that's what it is. Any other questions on road program? I'll get Dick first, and then.
Can you tell me, you got $2,576,000 if you want for road plan. So you must know what you're gonna do with that amount of money.
Yes, there's a.
Now, if you know what you're gonna do with that amount of money, then you must know what you're gonna do with the 1,500. You tell, with $1.5 million, can you tell me what you're gonna do with $1.5 million?
I know not doing my road, but other than that, yeah, we have, Paul can explain, but we do have a schedule.
Yeah, but you can't follow that schedule if you don't go with $2.5 million.
Correct. So what we do is
So what you gonna do with
you keep
$1.5 million?
deferring. So you reassess the roads, if I'm not mistaken, Carl. Every single year the roads get reassessed, and you try to pick off the ones that are the worst.
And Dick, soon into March, late in March is when that road plan and the projects that we'll do that following spring and summer, that's when the road plan is sealed down and we proceed with the actual projects. It would be too early right now to start talking about individual projects that would be done next summer and spring.
If I may, I just wanted to check one point that is really critical for some of the newer budget committee members. Dick, you've heard this 10 times over, but the question always gets asked, why are we resurfacing Wallace Road again every 5 or 6 years? But meanwhile, this other road is in complete horrible shape. Well, a road, say like Addison, it's done, it's toast. It can't get it couldn't have gotten any worse than what it was at. But a road like, say, Wallace Road, where we're keeping on top in terms of its surface, course code, if you don't maintain that and it goes into a failure mode, it costs, what is it, almost 10 times more than an overlay. So there's a lot of science to it, but it's better off economically for us to keep on, maintain these roads that we've invested a lot of money in, and then, again, try to pick away at these roads that are in complete failure. Another thing that happened this year is we got a lot of concerns on East Dunbarton Road, I think.
Drainage issues
Right.
and
Same thing.
as well as
Right.
deteriorating
Same.
surface on East Dunbar.
Same thing, we're trying, I guess we call that a hybrid, right? Try to hybrid type fix to that one. So we're trying to deal with them as best we can with the limited amount of money that we have.
I'll follow up on one point. When we do major reclamation of a road, the subsurface is rebuilt and where the base course of asphalt is put down in one season. Then that road exists over the whole winter, and look, we hope there's no deterioration of the road or weaknesses that will pop up during the course of the winter. But then in the following season, we put down the wear course. But so some residents will look at that, I thought my road was just repaved last summer. Why is it being repaved again? Well, there's the reason for that is 1 year base course. The following season is the wear course.
All right.
I actually have two questions. The first one is, I haven't seen the road plan. Is this structured so that, is there like a period where we put in more money and then there's like a maintenance period where we have to put in less money? Or is this something where the road plan is, it's gonna be $3 million every year forever?
It's more like that, Elizabeth. The way the road plan was originally conceived, in the front end, where so many roads were awful. It was front-loaded with a lot of reconstruction. Over time, that reconstruction, the mix between maintenance and reconstruction starts to shift. So as we move forward, more money is going into maintenance and less into reconstruction. It's not a straight line drawing, obviously, because you got to squeeze big projects in here and there. I used to think it was conceivable that someday the road plan would be reduced, but the cost, in 2001, I never would have foreseen paying $90 or $100 a ton for asphalt. You know, our handwork right now is costing over $100 a ton when we have to blend driveways and do that kind of stuff. So,
Do you have another question?
I do have another question. It seems like last year, I happened to catch you at a board of selectmen's meeting, this is probably in March, and you were talking about the price of asphalt and that because we had to wait for the budget to be approved, you had to wait to order your asphalt, so you couldn't get as good of a deal. So I guess my question is, if this was an expense that was in the operating budget year after year, so that you knew either way, it's either gonna be in the default budget or it's gonna be in the budget that gets passed, could you order your asphalt earlier and save money? Would it be cheaper to do that? Could we get more for our money, more asphalt?
It's a commodity. I mean, I guess it's a commodity, Elizabeth, and we run into this problem all the time with oil and gasoline. You never know when to buy, when not to buy. I mean, if we do that, we'd all be rich. So I guess it'd be good for Carl, but it's not, I don't think it's the quick hit. So I'm trying to speed this thing up.
okay, well, just real quick. Selectman Campusano has been beating me over the head for years about getting that bid to the selectmen earlier. We're gonna do that this year, we're gonna get it out earlier. What will save us money? What we've seen over the last several years, to compensate for the big spike, we put an asphalt escalator clause in the bid. So the asphalt contractors are not risking, giving us a number in February and what's gonna happen to the price of asphalt over the season. That used to drive our numbers up because they padded it because of the risk. So now we have an escalator clause in there so that if they give us a number in February and liquid asphalt goes up 100% over the course of the season, their price would get adjusted automatically. That helped, and now what we need to do is be able to get an early season paving schedule. So if we get our bids out earlier and we can nail down who's gonna do our roads earlier, we can get plugged into their schedule sooner in the season and get most of the overlay work done earlier. Hopefully that's
Okay. I've got Nick and then.
I'm all set.
Okay, we're good. Here's one thing I'm gonna ask is that this is good, because this is why we're here. But if you can, try to keep the questions Yep.
Scott, I was just gonna make a suggestion that perhaps in this format and setting that we have, that possibly it might be beneficial if we had a short workshop at another future date on the road plan program, that.
I think what's, I think what will happen is as the budget committee goes through that, Carl will be at that meeting and we'll probably be able to answer some more questions. But Richard, you had one?
Yes, which is the correct number for 2011, 1.499 or 2.033? You have a slide up there that says 1.499 in your handout. Has a spreadsheet that says 2.033. That's my first question. And my second question is, there's about $1.5 million over the last 6 years that were budgeted for road plans that end up as non-road plan expenses, and you can explain that for me.
As I said, what I call non-road plan expenses were rebuilding an intersection, we bought an excavator, we bought, there's a lot of other things that the budget committee, board of selectmen, through the budget process said, well, this can be used for the road plan, so why don't we fund it in the road plan? That's what's happened over the years. And to answer your first question, the road plan, this road reclamation line is one of 3 lines in the budget that make up the road plan. In the operating budget, there's also resurfacing and there's crack sealing. Those are maintenance lines, but they do constitute part of the road plan. So the total road plan is this 1.5 that's in CIP plus the resurfacing line and the crack seal line.
So one of these 3 would probably be the number you would keep in mind.
The total road plan.
Okay, what we're gonna do is I'm gonna have Selectman Pierce kind of go through the next CIP items, and then we're gonna, if you have questions, please hold them.
Next line deals with the 2 intersections where Route 13 and Route 114 either come together or they diverge, depending in which direction you're heading in the village. Last year, we applied for a federal grant, congestion mitigation air quality grant, and we were notified a month ago that that grant has been approved at the state level. It's a 55% grant, and the town pays 45% of the requirement to do the project. And so the total rebuild of those 2 intersections is $761,000. We will proceed in the coming months through the design phase of that project. And there'll be public hearings, public information released dealing with how we work through the design of those 2 intersections. Designs you may have seen up to now because of town had I forget whether it was a committee to study village plan, or looking at what the options are for potential design days. In the grand scheme, those were concepts of how the intersections could be designed. The formal design is now would be proceeding in the coming months. So, any questions on that?
I think we're gonna hold on, as the Chairman Devanza said, can we hold until we're done with all 4, and then we'll go and we'll do it. All right.
We were notified by DES that one of the 2 dams that hold back the uncommunicated lake on Mountain Base Road needs repair. And so this is money that would be put towards the study of how to repair that dam. And obviously, at some point after that, would have to be a construction.
Now, that was not per se a CIP, but this is an emergency type of thing, and we gotta deal with it, so.
We got to, and if we turn a blind eye to DES, conceivably they could then find the community. So it's something we must at least, we'll study, and then we'll understand what the construction costs will be. The software phase 2, tracking software, this is software that we already own an application that helps schedule the maintenance of DPW projects, one of which would be sewer activities. This is a line that would actually then populate one part of that application with sewer line information. So that going forward, the sewer activities and storm drain activities would be done with a more rational basis as to the need for the construction.
That's all set, right?
Yeah, sewer is gonna contribute 15,000 towards this. And what we're actually gonna be doing is hiring a consultant to begin condition assessment. We have all the lines in inventory, but now we have the TD lines and do a condition assessment of what we're looking at.
It'll be a contract that starts putting the appropriate data into an application we already own. Finally, there's a bridge on West Union Street. That's a street in the village where the abutment walls are failing, and the abutment walls have to be rebuilt. That's a $72,000 project.
Okay, I know Jennifer had a question on the intersection.
Yeah, very brief. Is that both points of 13, one heading towards Concord and one heading
Yes.
towards Boston?
Both intersections where 113, where 13 and 114 come together, or diverge.
All right, any other questions on those four projects? And again, I anticipate we'll probably have further discussions, and Carl will be in to do that. So you want to get the next slide?
Please. Well, I covered the items that we proposed to the budget committee would be in the CIP portion of the operating budget. These are projects that came out of the CIP in the Selectmen's discussions. The first one we already talked about, taking out the vacuum truck for cleaning up storm drains and sewer lines. Where Mass Road is in Bernardville, eventually we're going to have to look at the storm drain lines that are on the edge of that road. We took that out of the proposed CIP, anticipating we want to do a curb-to-curb resurfacing of that road. We already talked about this coming spring under the shoreline project. Then it would be prudent to let that stay in that condition for an appropriate amount of time before we would then tackle the reconstruction of the storm drain lines. Bridges, there's on Pleasant Street, which is Route 13 leaving the village going towards New Boston. There's a sidewalk that's been attached to a bridge, and the sidewalk is starting to fail. So that is a project that does need to be looked at. We've chosen to delay it. Finally, there are about 45 detention ponds. These are ponds that collect water from the roadsides and then let that water percolate into the earth after a storm. There's about 45 of these ponds throughout the town. Public Works and the town are responsible for the maintenance of those ponds to keep them in good condition where the water will percolate into the soil, keep them free of brush and trees, which would be detrimental to that purpose. We had,
We'll go back, sorry.
and there's what Carl was proposing, the maintenance of 2 of these ponds to be in the CIP portion of the lines to the tune of $73,000 to fix those 2 ponds up. We've chosen to delay that. This is going to be an activity that we're going to have to address as we go forward in future budgets, just like you would expect sealing of cracks on the roads to be an annual activity, year in and year out, or refreshing the painted lines on the roads, year in and year out. Attention to the repair and the upkeep of these detention ponds is going to be like that in the near future. And this was the first year we attempted to put it into the budget, and we've chosen to delay it for a year. Cemetery. Okay, this is one of the three operating functions of Public Works, maintenance of the cemeteries. That line is going up in this next year's budget for at least three reasons. First one, in the summer we hire part-time work, usually students, to help with the care of the three cemeteries, Hill Road, West Lawn, and West Hillside. And we've always had an issue with the cemetery trustees that when those students go back to school, the grass still keeps growing for another 6 to 8 weeks. And therefore it becomes, trustees wants us to better maintain those fields, the cemeteries. So this budget line will have an additional 2 seasonal positions so that part-time work extends from 14 weeks to 22 weeks.
There's no benefits, I mean, there's no medical, those are, because they're seasonal, there are no medical benefits or.
The benefits aren't increased, it's just wages. Finally, buying a commercial mower, $5,000. The primary task is mowing. And Hillside Cemetery at the Grassmere, we're anticipating higher rates on what would be in charge for water, and that line reflects that. Basic operations. And if we go back to the very first slide, overall, that's going down 1.5% from this year's budget. The reason for that, purchase services will be going down for the reasons that you can read here on the slide. We have added in some projects too, but overall it's down 1.5%.
One of the things I just wanted to add in here, I mean, again, we're trying to be as creative as possible. The flooring and DPW needs replacement, and pretty much Carl, we lowered that. Carl's folks are gonna do it. We're gonna pay for the materials, and they're gonna do it during the winter. So, those are some of the things.
There was this decrease of $10,000. There was a traffic light controller in Bernardville. It was a one-time effort to replace that controller. It's been done. So that type of a sub-line within the budget goes back to zero.
So you'll see, whereas last year we had to put these things in, and it was done, now we take it out. And that's the same thing with the painting and recon. We did that replacement body, and now that comes out because we've already done that. Should I keep going?
Yes, please. Business. The previous slide was purchased, this one's purchase services rather than, purchase goods rather than purchase services. The goods, minor increases in what we pay for tires, lubricants, so forth. Fuel has increased. We're anticipating needing more maintenance. That has increased by $10,000.
The big one is the bottom one, where the budget committee raised it at the end of the budget process, if you remember.
Thank you, Scott. Going down to that last one, decreasing the resurfacing in alignment with reduced money in the overall road plan. And the last phase of Public Works is, next slide, solid waste operations, where we anticipate a decrease in purchase services, minor amount, $1,000 for those activities. We're increasing the fees that we pay to get rid of solid waste. There's also a decrease from the previous budget because we're now experiencing the recycling portion of our solid waste. We're experiencing revenue from that now. Slight increases in electricity. And the last bullet deals with purchased goods. We're seeing increase in fuel costs from last year. And we need to replace replace some portion of the blue and green carts that we all have at our residence.
All right. Any questions? Now, I don't know if anybody, I don't know if anybody has scouted out where the bathrooms are, because I do know where some of the bathrooms are. Has anybody done that?
No, you're gonna tell us.
So Diane will tell us where at least the ladies' room is.
I went downstairs, I couldn't find one up here.
Okay, Jake, do you know, is there one up here?
They're usually in the middle,
I think if you just go up this way.
yeah,
to
down the
left,
hall.
Take a
there'll
left.
be bathrooms.
Take a
Yeah.
left, they're on the right-hand side if you're on the upstairs floor.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Dan, you had a question?
There is a line called consulting and contracted services that in 2011 budgeted at 3,000 year-to-date, and I'm gonna have a segue to the question. And Dawn, these numbers are year-to-date as of what point in time on the paper copies we have?
Should be end of September, I believe.
The end of September? Not middle of October, but actually end of September? Well, you can get back to me, but I'm looking at that because
That's
I'm,
right.
We would not have run a report like that mid-month. It's always end of the month.
End of the month.
okay, then it's 5274 currently, so we're over budget, but the 2012 estimate or request is 12,170. What's the mindset of what we're gonna
I
use?
assume you're talking about solid waste.
Public Works Operations, consulting and contracted, it's not solid waste. It's 45020.
Okay, here's what we're gonna do, with your permission.
Write it down.
Let's get that thing, we'll get you that answer. Let's take a 5-minute break, okay? So we can use the restrooms, and then we're gonna start off with the police department. Actually, before that, Paul, please, if you have answered that question. So again, just go out this way, make a left, right,